I am Jamie Levine, Executive Director of Elder Law and Advocacy, and I'm here today with Andrew Thompson, who is an attorney with Elder Law and Advocacy and runs the Nursing Home Rights Enforcement Project.
I do indeed, and it's not hard to be the person who runs it since I'm the only one in the Nursing Home Rights Enforcement Project.
That's true, and you've been the only one running it for a long time. How long have you been doing that?
I have been here for 17 years doing the enforcement project, nursing home work.
What attracted you to Elder Law and Advocacy?
Well, when I was in law school one summer, I volunteered for a nonprofit organization, and we did legal work with family law for indigent people in San Diego. And it was really fulfilling. It was difficult work, and the subject matter was difficult. I think I had 2 death threats that summer against me, but it was a fulfilling job. After I graduated, I'd spent 8 years in private practice doing medical malpractice, and I never got that same fulfillment. So I saw this job pop up, and it said 1 year of medical malpractice experience and working for a nonprofit. So I came here, and it gave me that same fulfillment that I had lacked for 8 years in private practice.
Nice. And so did you start the program, or the program was here?
The program was already here,
Mm-hmm.
but we kind of changed the format of how we did it. I think there were 2 people, maybe 3 people who had been here before me, but in short tenures. I think the person who had originally started it was here for 2 years.
Tony
Chicotel. He was here for 2 years, I believe, before he left. And then there were 2 other people who were here for a year, maybe less, who
Okay.
worked in it.
Okay, and can you describe sort of what the program looked like when you started with us, and then how it has evolved and what it's like right now?
I think the number of people that we service is really how it evolved. I think that the underlying thought of why we had this division was always there, but I think as it gained steam, as it gained recognition in the community, I think we just got more and more clients, and I think that was the evolution of it. We also did more litigation since I've been on board. And again, I spent 7 or 8 years doing medical malpractice defense litigation. So I brought those skills just to the light side of the table.
Nice. And so what kind of volume, how many clients do you talk to a month or a year? How does that?
It averages probably about 20 clients, new clients a month.
Mm-hmm.
And then litigation-wise, we probably have 8 to 10, sometimes more litigation cases going every year.
Okay. So the program's called Nursing Home Rights Enforcement.
Correct.
Why do we need a Nursing Home Rights Enforcement Project?
Well, let's go back to that same question about the expansion of the program.
Okay.
So it's called Nursing Home Rights Enforcement Project, but we now also enforce rights for residential care facilities and other long-term care facilities.
Mm-hmm.
So I think most of the people who enter into these facilities, it's a very traumatic period of their life. They either just come off of surgery and they go in there for rehab, or they're taken out of their private homes and they're placed either in a skilled nursing facility or residential care facility in order to be more monitored. And I think that's A, traumatic for the resident, and B, they lose a lot of rights. And I think we're here in order to enforce the rights that they still do have as people who live in these facilities.
Can you expand on that? What are the rights that they're losing? What happens to them once they're in a facility?
They lose a lot of self-determination.
Mm-hmm.
There are people who are now making decisions for them. As some of them lose capacity, their rights are stripped even further away. Oftentimes they have a power of attorney, and I always say be very, very careful who you give that power to, because at some point in time you don't have capacity any longer. They get to make decisions. And a lot of people abuse that document. They think now it's time to say who mom or dad can see or not see, where they go, whether they can go to lunch outside of the facility, whether they can cross the road. So I think those are the kinds of rights that disappear when somebody enters a facility, and they shouldn't, because you should still have autonomy, and because you can no longer take care of yourself in a situation at home alone, doesn't mean that you should forfeit all your rights.
Mhm.
And that's what we're here to try to protect.
Okay. So you're counseling people about rights often.
Often, yes.
And then what do the litigation cases look like? What's a typical litigation case? And why do we have a program that just litigates in this area?
So a lot of cases, even the litigation cases, have to do with subversion of rights. So a lot of cases that we do that don't make it to the level of litigation, so a medication error that doesn't result in harm, we still address those.
Mhm.
But there are occasions where the problems do create harm. So we have a lot of fall cases with fractures. We have bed sore cases. We have medication administrations that are mess-ups that do lead to harm. And then we get on board and file litigation. We review medical records and file litigation on that. So it's kind of a 1-2 punch to try to keep this industry following the regulations and following the rules. We have the social work / legal cases that we do, and the resident rights violations that we address, and we also have the litigation. So it's the 1-2 punch as far as nursing homes and residential care facilities go.
You mentioned that part of what we're doing is encouraging facilities to follow the rules. Why are they not following the rules, and what are the rules that they're not following?
So along with the expansion of our program, there was a huge expansion of the industry.
Mm-hmm.
So 20 years ago, it was what we call ma and pa stores. So a lot of these were family owned. And a lot of the residential care facilities were 6-bed care facilities. That started to erode when corporations came in and they took over the skilled nursing facilities. That's now starting to happen with the residential care facilities as well. You would think that maybe with corporations stepping in, you would have some uniformity of care, policy and procedures that would take over all the facilities, but it hasn't worked that way. Instead, it's shareholders somewhere in Delaware who could care less who's in the actual facility as long as they get their amount when they're supposed to get their amount. And so the combination of health care, quote unquote, along with for-profit, I think has caused disastrous problems in the industry. And those are the kinds of things that we step in to try to address.
Okay. So is it kind of like private equity getting into an industry and like stripping out whatever they don't need and trying to make it as profitable as possible? Is that what the dynamic is?
I think as profitable to them as possible, for sure.
Uh-huh.
And a lot of these private equities with absolutely no health care background whatsoever. So they're just industries and tycoon industries. We had one who, they built all the homes in Temecula, for example. They decided that they saw money in this business and they wanted to get into it. They had enough money, so they bought 5 or 6 different facilities, but they were just wrought with problems. And the drain on every business is employees. So if you can lessen the number of employees, or if you can hire ones that aren't as well qualified and pay them less, that definitely helps, again, the shareholders back in Delaware or whatever the shareholders might be. And that creates problems.
What is there a kind of case that you're looking for? Like what kinds of, describe the cases that are appropriate for you to take.
How much time do we have? It's difficult because it's anything that has a sniff of legal to it whatsoever we address. But that can be everything from kicking somebody out of a nursing home when they shouldn't be, all the way to, like I said, stage 4 bed sores or wrongful death cases. So there's just a myriad of different cases in between. A majority of the cases we see are wrongful evictions. We see that often. Sometimes when there's a difficult family or a family who stands up for their loved one's rights, they're given an eviction notice. The facility would rather find somebody else to take their money rather than deal with a family that's going to advocate for their loved one. We deal with those a lot. We deal with a lot of theft. There is a lot of abuse, both physical and verbal abuse in facilities. And then we deal with all the medical malpractice and negligence on the healthcare side of it as well.
Okay. Is this a program that you're looking to grow in any way, or are you kind of keeping it in this realm?
as the industry grows, I think the program needs to grow. And it's difficult when you had the ma and pa stores and you can make a phone call to, the matriarch or patriarch who own the facility and say, look, these are the regulations, this is what you need to do. It was easier. Now when you're calling corporations and they put you in touch with their corporate attorneys and you have risk managements and you have the shell game of different corporations owning the actual nursing home, somebody's the licensee, somebody else owns the building, it just complicates it. So definitely a huge need. I think a majority of the nursing homes and residential care facilities in San Diego have been cited by the state for violations. And I don't see that improving. Like I said, the corporate takeover of the residential care facility, like they did in the skilled nursing facility, I think it's just going to exacerbate the problem.
The insurance, I think nursing homes are required to have certain level of insurance.
Correct.
And there are issues with that. But I don't know if the other facilities, what's the requirement for insurance and what are the problems related to that?
So residential care facilities did not have to carry insurance for years and years. And just in the past few years, they have had a requirement through community care licensing. In order to get a license, you have to carry liability insurance.
Up to what level is there?
I believe it's $1 million,
Okay.
the policy, which at first, again, was a wonderful contribution to the industry. Because if you have a lawsuit, for example, and there's no money for a for-profit attorney at the end of the rainbow, then nobody wants to take those cases.
Right.
And so people were literally getting away with murder, and nobody was stopping them. So it was, at first, we thought it was great, the introduction of insurance, but like everything else in this industry, they find ways to try to get around that. And that's another thing that we've been seeing recently as the corporations take over our CFEs. They start doing these policies with cutouts. So they get a cheaper policy that doesn't cover certain things, and those certain things just happen to be the problems that we see all the time. Falls, for example, or infection control, or these things that we see on a daily basis with these facilities. So insurance is good, but it's still problematic, and you still have bad actors out there. Insurance, I can go out here and I can drive like a maniac because I have insurance. I can have 100 speeding tickets, I can get in numerous car accidents, and my insurance will cover it every single time. Same with these facilities. In the end, it just becomes so cost prohibitive for me to drive like that, then one of two things needs to happen. Either need to start driving better or stop driving completely. And that's kind of what we try to do with these lawsuit part of it, is to make it so that we've hit some facilities 10 times over the last 15, 17 years. But it just becomes so cost prohibitive that example that I gave you of the builders from Temecula, they're gone from the industry. They were there for maybe 3 years and then they sold it. It wasn't making the money to cover the increase in their insurance premiums.
And last question, there's a spectrum of quality of nursing home care. There's the worst, there's the best. Where is the mean? How good is the best? And I mean, the worst is terrible, I'm sure, but I mean, is there good quality nursing home care available, or are we looking at a spectrum that is all kind of compromised?
That's very difficult for me to answer because those 20 calls a month are not people calling me, telling me how great their experience was in a nursing facility. So the calls that I receive are always calls of problems. And those calls that I receive and the problems that I address with 5-star rated nursing homes, and I address them with 1-star rated nursing homes. I address them with nursing homes in San Diego County and in Imperial County. So it is a problem in a lot of nursing homes and residential care facilities. And again, it's a for-profit model that makes it a problem. Back east, there are a lot more nonprofit that run nursing facilities. And they seem to have considerably less problems than we do here. And it's not just a San Diego problem. The Sacramento Bee had a wonderful series about the nursing home problems up in Northern California, in the Sacramento area. So it's statewide for sure. And a lot of these huge corporations are nationwide, and they have the same problems across the nation that their facilities do here. So I don't know if that addresses the question on whether there's good.
We wouldn't hear from them anyway. If there was some stellar organization, they probably wouldn't have people calling us.
But like I said, a majority of the facilities here in San Diego have been cited by the state.
Right.
So I have calls that are more on the social work side of it, visitation problems, those kinds of issues. And then I have ones that are obviously in my black book that have caused great harm to their residents over the years.
Yeah. Well, it's a sad state of affairs for residents of these facilities. You do an incredible job. You're a very effective attorney, and your program has really helped a lot of people. And I think it's probably made a huge difference in the industry, actually, because it makes it expensive for them to not follow the rules, not staff properly, and not take care of their residents. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate it, and thank you for the support.